Some species have shown to have traits that seemingly provide no real benefit. For instance, peacocks have large, bright tails that make it an easy target for predators. It can't stay airborne, and a good amount of metabolic energy is wasted just due to the maintenance of growing a new tail every year. Female peahens, on the other hand, are a brown color that is easily camouflaged. Peacock's tail seems utterly useless from a survival standpoint, making it hard to fathom how it could possibly be an adaptation. Why is it that only males have this? And why are these genes passed on when they are maladaptive for survival?
Sexual dimorphism is the distinct difference in size or appearance between the sexes of an animal, in addition to difference between the sexual organs themselves. This proved to be one of the major roadblocks for Darwin and forced him to find an explanation. If traits differ between males and females of a species, the elaborate behaviors, structures, and ornaments are nearly always restricted to males. Sexual selection, simply put, is the increasing the chances of an individual finding a mate. There are two parts to sexual selection. One is direct competition between males, and the other part is female choosiness. Examples of direct competition between males include difference in size of their weapons, mostly referring to physical strength. Some examples of stronger weapons include larger tusks, horns, teeth, claws, larger body size, and anything else that will help win physical contests. Female choosiness refers to attractiveness, which is visual. Anything including visual displays, feathers, bright colors, elaborate designs, bowers, or anything else that would attract a female's attention. Another part of sexual selection is post-mating competition. Some examples include male dragonflies remaining attached to their mate after mating in order to guard his female against other suitors. Another example is after fertilizing a female, a male millipede will ride her for several days to prevent any other competitor from claiming her eggs. Third example is a male snake's ejaculate will temporarily plug up a female's reproductive tract after mating to barricade out other probing males. And a last example is a male fruit fly that injects the female with an anti-aphrodisiac, a chemical in his semen that makes her unwilling to remate for several days.
Why sex derives evolution. In this video, we will be focusing on the significance of sex in evolution and how sexual selection and the development of sexual dimorphism proceeds further to give an explanation of why sex came into being in the first place. The main topics that will be covered in this section are the following: sexual reproduction versus asexual reproduction, parthenogenesis, sexual reproduction leads to sexual selection, intrasexual versus intersexual, and lastly, monogamy. Sexual versus asexual reproduction. Any individual who reproduces sexually, that is by making eggs or sperm that contain only half of its gene, sacrifice 50% of its genetic contribution to be the next generation compared to an individual who reproduces asexually. For example, if there was a gene in a human whose normal form leads to sexual reproduction, but whose mutant form enabled a female to reproduce parthenogenetically, which means by producing an embryo that developed without fertilization. The gene for parthenogenesis would have outcompete the gene for sexual reproduction. In each generation, the sexual gene would reproduce twice as many copies of itself as did the original sexual gene. There are two types of sexual selection. The first one is intrasexual selection, which males compete for the access of females, and the second one is intersexual selection. In this type, males display certain traits to females, and females choose among possible mates. Under sexual selection, the question is why there exist only two sexes rather than three or more, and why these sexes display difference in numbers and size of gametes. Evidence from theoreticians demonstrate that natural selection will support this inheriting condition into a condition where one sex produces many small gametes that are the sperm, and the other one produces less larger gametes. It is apparent that in sexual selection, female selectiveness has caused the evolution of various sexual dimorphism. Sexual selection leads to sexual dimorphism in physical and behavioral traits between males and females. The definition of sexual dimorphism is trait differences between males and female species such as color, song, and tails. The greater sexual dimorphism in a species, the less monogamous in there, and here we are talking about the competing of males to access females. On the other hand, less sexual dimorphism in a species leads to a high or more monogamous, which means that males do not have to compete for the access of females. Now, summarizing this section by highlighting that the disparity between males and females due to a differential investment, that is, an investment in cheap sperms versus expensive sperms, in pregnancy and in maternal care, in which various genus, which females are left with the responsibility of raising the young.
Sexual dimorphism is very common in species where males have to compete amongst one another to win the affections of a female. This is frequently true of species that are polygamous, but it can be seen with some frequency in those species that are socially monogamous as well. But why have sexual dimorphism at all if the pairs are monogamous? Would there be any benefit to having traits that reduce your chance for survivability? Turns out this monogamy is just in appearances only, and those pairs are simply socially bonded. Males and females mate strictly outside of their bonded pair. Fidelity is generally only found where the females and males look indistinguishable from one another. These pairs often raise their young together. The reverse can also be true where males are the picky sex. In this case, the males are the ones that carry their young to gestation, while females have very elegant designs. There are also instances with polyandrous mating that involve one female with many males, but those males are still in charge of rearing their offspring. Females are again the decorated ones in this case.
In this part, we will see why females choose a particular male. In this picture, you see Alfred Russel Wallace, and his theory was females were less colorful than males because they need to be hidden from predators, while the bright colors and names of males were byproduct of their physiology. Darwin was strongly agree with the theory that male's phenotype evolved with female's choice. He also believed that females choosing based on pure aesthetics. But the question is, does animal have an aesthetic sense like ours? We know that some species, such as some birds, have attraction to bright and colorful objects. But how about lower species like flies? Let's get back to the first question. Why females choose a particular male? There are two answers to this question. First, she can benefit directly by choosing healthy and young males during act of childcare. and the second is she can benefit indirectly by choosing male with better genes. In both ways, it will be favored by natural selection. Let's see an example. The house finch of North America has two colors. Females are brown, but males have bright colors on their head and breasts. Jeff Hill from University of Michigan used hair dyes to make males brighter or paler, and bright males obtained significantly more mates than paler ones. He also showed that brighter males feed their children more often than other ones, which is the answer for why females choose bright males. If you're asking why bright males bring more food to their young children, it's because they're more healthy. Being healthy is an advantage. It's like they're bigger, they're stronger, or they're faster. Evolutionary theory shows that when a female chooses a male because of any advantage that might the male has, there are three types of genes will all increase in frequencies together. Genes for a male trait reflecting that he has good genes, genes that make a female prefer that indicated trait, and good genes whose presence is reflected by the indicator. Alison Welch at University of Missouri had a study on gray tree frogs. He observed that male frogs attract females by giving loud calls. The study shows that females strongly prefer males whose calls are longer. He fertilized half of females' eggs with sperm from long-calling male and the other half with sperms from short-calling males. They saw that offspring from long caller grew faster and survived better. It shows that female frogs get indirect benefit by choosing long calling males. However, there is another explanation of sexual dimorphism. It's based on what's called sensory bias model. This model assumes that the evolution of dimorphism is driven simply by pre-existing biases in a female's nervous system. But unlike the other theory, in sensory bias model, females derive neither direct or indirect benefit from choosing a particular male.